Way back at the beginning of the pandemic, I began a journey. Well, Julie and I did, really. It's something I'd always wanted to do. We decided we would learn Hebrew. I've always wanted to understand Hebrew and the biblical text in one of its original languages. I had years ago done some study in Greek and had thoroughly enjoyed that, but I just had no background in Hebrew at all. And so Julie and I last May started a Hebrew class, and we've been slowly working our way through Old Testament scripture and working our way through a Hebrew grammar. We're probably at the kindergarten stage right now in our reading ability, picking up simple words that we recognize and recognizing interesting patterns. In my homework this week, I saw something that was just something that inspired. It just delighted me to just see it there, plain as day in the original language. So I wanted to record something that describes that. So here is my homework from this week. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 13. And what I'm going to read to you is my translation, not authoritative. So don't take this, take it with a grain of salt. But my translation of Isaiah 66 verse 13 reads, "Like one whose mother will comfort him, so I will comfort you. And in Jerusalem you will be comforted." This was used this week because we're learning about piel and pual verb roots. And I don't need to get into that except to say they are a verb tense that just kind of brings heightened interest either in the active or the passive. And what's interesting here is this verse reads, like one whose mother, she comforts him. So I will comfort you. There's this idea in the text that God appears as a mother and is not put off by the comparison. Now I know in some church circles the idea of God as mother is a triggering thing. Like those are fighting words. Those are things that you have massive comment sections based on. It is a tremendously challenging idea, but what I'm really encouraged by is even in this text here, there's an image of God as mother. And God doesn't blush. That God receives this, that God says, I'll comfort you just like a mother comforts their child. And in fact, it adds at the end of the text, you will be comforted in Jerusalem, right where you are. You don't need to go somewhere for this to happen, but you can have it happen right where you are. There are all kinds of pictures of God as mother in the text. It's not an unusual idea. Psalm 131 is a fascinating one. This, again, I'm reading now. This is out of an authoritative translation, JPS. It reads, "O Lord, my heart is not proud, nor my look haughty. I don't aspire to great things or what's beyond me, but I've taught myself to be contented like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child am I in my mind. O Israel, wait for the Lord now and forever." It's a psalm of satisfaction. And there's this beautiful picture of God as mother. And we as God's child, but a weaned child. So this is a child that used to breastfeed, that used to nag and pester mom for nourishment, but is now weaned and can now just simply rest with God. It's a beautiful image, and one that's just unapologetically feminine in its character and in its quality. It reminds me, or it goes back to one of the very first chapters of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1. There's this very famous verse where God, after creating all of the created world, animals and plants and earth and all living things, says, "Now let us create humanity in our image, after our likeness. They'll rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the cattle, the whole earth, and all the creeping things that creep on the earth." And God created humanity in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. It's again this picture of God creating humanity and maleness and femaleness doesn't get in the way. It's as if to say that humans image God both in their maleness and in their femaleness. God is comfortable being imaged as either male or as female. It's not a one or the other. It's not this or that, God as father or God as mother. But instead, it's this idea that neither of the genders get in the way of reflecting the character and the nature of God. Julian of Norwich has said, "As verily as God is our Father, verily God is our mother."